Got the door closed. Okay, got to get our senator in here. Senator Comrie, thank you for joining us.
Nobody else?
Let's get her chancellor. Yeah. Madam President, is everybody all set?
Yes.
All right, now we're ready to start. One of the best things I ever get to do in this job is to play with children, especially 3-year-olds, because I happen to be a 3-year-old expert with a 3-year-old grandchild. And I just spent time going from room to room in this incredible place at the York College Childcare and Family Center, a place that is welcoming and warm and loving. And that's what I took away from this. And I just want to expand this to even more children. And I want to thank Shirlene Dertinger, the director of this wonderful, wonderful place, for welcoming me and making me feel right at home here with the beautiful children. Senator Comrie, who's been a great champion for his district, and many more projects that he has pushed us to do are going to be underway, and I thank him for his leadership. Of course, thinking of leadership, we have an extraordinary leader of CUNY system, our Chancellor Felix Matos Rodriguez, and our president of York College, Claudia Schrader. So this will be brief. I just want to talk about kids, because when we invest in our kids, we're investing not just in their future, but the future of our state. And I'm glad to be back here to talk about something we all agree on. You know, young families, even when I was, believe it or not, part of a young family many, many years ago, trying to start out and raise a family. It was hard when we couldn't find childcare that was affordable or just even available, and had to leave a job that I loved. It took me a long time to get to that position, and then I had to walk away from it because my children had to come first. Today, too many families are faced with, number one, do we even have a child? Can we afford a child in this day and age? Or do we put off our careers and our dreams? Or how do we just really make life even harder by trying to manage the cost of the diapers and the formulas and the little clothes that change every 3 months, literally? So I know those struggles personally. And now to see as a grandma, my own kids going through that and their friends, it is hard to say that we have not figured this out in literally generations. But that stops now. We have an aggressive, bold, ambitious plan to make sure that our children are well cared for and have the benefit of early childhood education, but also addressing the cost. I mean, for a family in New York City, right here in Queens, contemplating their own family and paying for childcare, it can be upwards of $26,000 to $40,000 per year per child. It doesn't add up. If you're a minimum wage worker or just starting out in your career, it doesn't work out for you here in New York. And that puts us at a huge competitive disadvantage for lower cost states. I don't want any more families to leave New York. I want them to know this is their home and we welcome them. We want them to stay. But we have to work as a government to make life more affordable for them, something I've been laser focused on for years. So now I've already invested $8 billion in childcare over the last 4 years as your governor. And I'm proud to team up with the newly elected mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, to realize his plan for what he wants to see and build on programs that have been in place here in New York City but never reached their full potential. What we're talking about is with state assistance helping open up the slots we need for the 3K program, right-sizing it, putting the slots where there's demand, and figuring that part of it out, which is one of his top priorities. But then why not start getting going on a program that is going to take care of our 2-year-olds as well, the 2Care program. So we'll fully fund that. The state of New York is committed to fully funding that, not just this year, which is what normal budgeting is, but I've already taken the unprecedented step of committing next year as well. So they can count on this money for the duration. So they've launched a program, or we'll be launching a program in a number of 4 priority districts, and we're going to be watching closely how to operationalize that and to scale that up throughout the city. So I'm very excited about that as well. Statewide, we have rest of state, not as far ahead as New York City was when having universal 4-year-old programs and 3-year-old programs. So I have declared that by 2028, the entire state of New York will be offering for every parent of a 4-year-old the availability of a 4K program, either in their schools or in partnership with local providers. That's how we get on the path But also at the same time, I announced this in Poughkeepsie yesterday, that we're going to invest in 3 pilot programs in Dutchess County and Monroe County and Broome County to start with newborns to 3-year-olds and support community-based programming there as well. So this year alone, then, we're talking about a major investment of $4.5 billion investing in our kids. I think that's smart money, and everyone should agree. This is going to change the lives of thousands of families and children across New York, and I'm real excited about making sure that this happens. And also, one more point. It's not just for the families. When I was starting out, the thought was, this is you and your family's problem. You wanted to have a family, you figure it out. Society didn't seem to care, and certainly businesses didn't think it was their problem. This is one area I've seen a dramatic shift. Businesses know that they can be more competitive when they can open up their opportunities to everyone who wants to work, including a lot of the women who end up being the ones as primary caregivers or the ones who have to sacrifice. So this is good for business. And we're also going to be working with businesses to incentivize them to provide either on-site childcare, give them what they need to make this happen, or other opportunities they have, because they're vested in this as well. When our parents go back to work, the economy roars. New York State is going to continue to realizing its full potential, and I'm very excited about that as well. So we continue our journey to talk about something that is one of my top priorities, but also one of my favorite topics, which is how we take care of our children. Thank you.
We'll take some on-topic questions. 2 questions for you. The first, while we also have the CUNY Chancellor here, if we're building out a larger early childhood education system, it's going to involve more qualified educators to do it. Can you talk about how you envision working with your higher ed partners, whether it's CUNY, SUNY, to build out that pipeline of adults at the front of these classrooms? And 2, on the topic of education, your State of the State policy book did not include any changes to foundation aid here in New York City. We got less funding in New York City than we anticipated with the changes to foundation aid last year. Do you plan on reading?
That is a question that will be answered in days at our budget address. So there's a reason it wasn't mentioned, because there's a price tag, and that's something we historically do in the budget address. So stay tuned for that. We've already started building out the workforce. We knew that what I've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years now is saying we want to get to universal child care. I actually announced this over a year ago. But what we had not done before, previous governors had not invested in the infrastructure to make that happen. What am I talking about? The locations. We announced last year $100 million to help build out more capacity, whether it's retrofitting people's homes or larger scale facilities. So job number 1 is find locations. Number 2 is the workforce. And that is one of the reasons why education is one of the targeted categories for free community college that we started offering last summer. We have over 11,000 people who've enrolled because of that, 11,000 more than we anticipated. And that is going to at least cover the first couple of years for people who want to change careers. This is for adults age 25 and older, but also those who just want to get involved in this. And I saw an incredible program in Poughkeepsie yesterday where in high-need areas, the moms who want to go to work but can't find childcare, they're the ones being trained to be childcare workers. It was beautiful. So the moms were in the classroom with their own children, but learning a skill that where they can support their own families. So it was brilliant. It's something I talked about since I was lieutenant governor. As governor, I made that happen, and I want to make sure that happens well. So we're very cognizant of the need to have a more robust workforce. In fact, we did bonuses just a couple years ago to stop those from leaving. We shut down a lot, not we, but many facilities were shut down during the pandemic and never, ever reopened. And that's why we're starting behind where we should be. But we'll catch up.
Hey there, I have an education question. Bruce Blakeman is in Sunset Park today doing a tour of Asian communities. He's criticizing Zohran Mamdani relating to gifted and talented and related to the Stuyvesant test. Mamdani wants to, considering eliminating certain parts of gifted and talented programs. What's your position on the STY test? What's your position on gifted?
No, this is a matter for the city, but I'm also focused here today on younger children than that. These are talking about, today we're here to talk about preschoolers and how we're going to make sure that we can build the pipeline to be able to make young people eligible for opportunities in the future.
Yeah. Questions, anybody? Any other questions on childcare? All right, last call. We'll excuse
All right.
our friends from the
All right.
Education Committee.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Great to see you.
Congrats, yes.
You're welcome to stay, yeah.
I got your back.
Okay, you always have my back. You always have my back. I need to address something, though. I need to address something. Here we are in Jamaica, Queens, one of the most diverse places on the planet. Enriched because this has been a welcoming place for generations of people from around the world, all walks of life, people coming here for the same reason my immigrant grandparents came here in search of a better dream and leaving great poverty or their circumstances back home. In the last year since Donald Trump has been president, that has been turned upside down. People are now, instead of working in their businesses and supporting their families and worshiping where they want to, they're in hiding. And we have now seen an escalation beyond what I don't think any American could have contemplated. The militarization of our streets, places like Minneapolis, that led to the fact that a 6-year-old that woke up with a mom one day went to bed an orphan. And it's time for us to stand up. Here in the state of New York, we are taking bold action to say, if ICE crosses the line and denies the constitutional rights of our residents, that there are consequences, that people should be able to hold them accountable, number one. Number two, there have to be sensitive places. We should not be able to allow ICE agents masked and armed to walk into this childcare center in search of a parent or one of our workers, or going to a place of worship or a hospital or other places that we deem sensitive. So in my state of the state, we're saying no more. You may not walk into those places without a judicial order, literally meaning signed by a judge. And lastly, to have just learned that Donald Trump is invoking the Insurrection Act, which means he has given himself the power to deploy American military forces against the people living in this country. It is almost without precedent. There have been incidences in the past, but those are very extreme. And now, that is what we're talking about. So a place like New York, home to immigrants, we cherish their contributions and the diversity that it gives us, is standing up. Thank you.
Governor, the National Guard, will you increase or scale down the troops for the subway riot?
What I want to do is continue to give the city of New York what it needs to keep driving down crime. We've now been, allocating our National Guard, which we're always here to help with, protecting our other assets, our transportation centers, our airports, et cetera. So we'll talk about where they are, but they've had the effect we wanted. I know there was a lot of concern and anxiety when we first put them in the subways a couple of years ago, but there was more fear that something would happen to individuals on the way to work or their children on the way to school. So having driven down subway crime to historic levels because of a multifaceted approach that included the National Guard at the time, more money for police departments, policing here for the NYPD, cameras everywhere, subway platforms, LED lighting. We've taken all these steps, but I don't want to go backwards. I also don't want to take out the elements that have been working so successfully to keep New Yorkers safe and say mission accomplished, because I'll never say that.
Can you talk about Blakeman's comments
No,
on
I'm
the
sorry.
No, we're done.
I got a question.
I didn't get an answer though.
What's your opinion about maybe possibly raising the taxes to pay for the universal childcare in the long run? Because I know that it's very expensive, and I know
I think the governor made her position clear on that on Tuesday, and I think it's kind of unfair to repeat the question again. She's going to be coming out with her tax plan next week, and with all due respect, you should wait to hear it then.
But we have said, because we've managed our finances so well,
Yes, I should have said that.
we are managing a very large budget. And you've seen us create more opportunities and make more investments, whether it's $50 million for Jamaica Station, which this community desperately needs, or investments in childcare and education and healthcare. We've been able to do all that because we managed our finances well without raising taxes. So I don't support raising taxes just for the sake of raising taxes. Obviously we have to look at if Donald Trump, eviscerates half our budget or some cataclysmic circumstance in the future, I have to keep all options on the table. But we don't have to do this to fund the ambition that I laid out in my State of the State address because we've been managing our budgets and our finances so well. All right. All right.
We're not going to answer the Blakeman question.
We are,
No, I don't think.
yeah.
Blakeman, you may have heard his comments in Minnesota, so I want to ask you two things. First, what do you think of them? And two, if Trump sends the National Guard in, the Minnesota governor wasn't able to keep him out. How can you keep him out?
I will continue to make the case that as a former resident of this city, a business person in this city, someone who has employees and buildings here, and a lot of friends, that the president should look at the surge that they could be talking about in terms of ICE agents or the National Guard as destabilizing. He knows how critical we are to the national economy. We are the backbone of this country. And for him to just throw gasoline and create a fire, throw a match on it, is, I think, not in his interest or the interest of his friends or the businesses that he cares about. So that is what the argument I will continue to make to him. I made it successfully before when there was talk that he was going to send the National Guard and ICE agents more aggressively after Chicago. And I spoke to him, and he reiterated our conversation the next day in a press conference that I told him we've got this under control, that if we need any help, I know where to call you. And he said that to the press. So I hope that we're still in that place. If we're not, I will do whatever it takes to protect New Yorkers.
Blakeman on Minnesota appearing to side with the ICE agent who killed the woman in the car.
That's disgusting. That is disgusting that he thinks that a woman standing up with her voice, not threatening, but saying something to an individual carrying a gun with a mask on, who is clearly not a threat, that he thinks that the murder of her was justified. I think everybody in the state should know that. Everyone should know that. That is just too far. Last question. Okay.
Governor, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the Back to Basics plan that you announced for math. Can you provide some more details about how exactly you're going to revamp math instruction and what kind of approach you want to use and what that'll mean for districts like New York City that already have a math curriculum, although the city's curriculum has received some criticism?
First of all, we talked to the experts. I'm not going to tell you right now that I'm going to redesigning a math program. It was not my strongest subject in school.
Mine neither.
Okay, I'll admit that. But what we had to do with literacy, there had been a way of teaching literacy that was popularized 20 years ago. But fairly early, it became clear that that was not working. But because it was designated as the policy of the state of New York, every teacher, a young teacher being trained, had to follow that model, and the teachers themselves knew it was not working. And nobody stood up to the status quo and says, this is wrong, or we're going to change it, until I did. And as a result, the teachers are delighted, and we're following what other states have done, which is saying that was not a good idea. It was a failed experiment. We're doing it differently, and I think we're going to start seeing better results. I want the same for math. There are new ways to teach math. We have to get updated. We have to just get rid of the junk science around how we teach our kids and focus on tested policies and strategies that work. So I'll be listening, and our state education department will be listening to what is known to work. I want to see the results, and then we'll make sure, as we did last time, we had to make sure there's additional money for retraining the teachers. We did that in the literacy space, but that has gone well. That has gone very well. So we now have a model, and we'll do the same with the math programs. It's important. All right. All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks for coming out.